Hello, everybody. Welcome to the lunch table. I'm Evan, joined here with Zach and Nick. And the NFL season has come to an end as the Super Bowl 59 was on Sunday, and the Eagles beat the Chiefs 40-22, stopping the Chiefs from a three-peat. And that score, if you watch the game, was obviously deceiving because it was a blowout,
An egregious
old-fashioned blowout. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the games and kind of talk about some of the storylines that came out of that. But before we dive into it, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. We're 20 subscribers away from 200, so that'd be great if we could hit that. And to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, lunchtable.takes. Without further ado, let's go into our Super Bowl recap. So, like I mentioned just a couple seconds ago, the Eagles won 40-22. Nick, we'll start with you. What were your kind of initial thoughts after the game?
Initial thoughts after the game. I feel like my first initial thought, I was thinking this during the game, was that this Eagles team is not going to be remembered in the light that they should because of who they played and what they stopped. This Eagles team is one of the best teams ever constructed in NFL history. They are absolutely loaded at all levels possible. You know, Vic Fangio, phenomenal defensive coordinator, elite defensive line.
The Chiefs were the better team from top to bottom.
I don't want to comment on that. No, I will comment on that. I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong.
Wait, hold on. Repeat that.
Well, now I'm not going to.
No. I just missed it. What'd you say?
Well, now I'm not. No, I'm not going to repeat that because I know what you're doing.
I'll get it in the podcast.
All right, nice. But yeah, I was too caught up on the coordinator side of things. I thought that Spags and I think Matt Nagy. Why was I caught up on the coordinator side of things? One team has Matt Nagy hired. I thought Spags was gonna pull up a defensive game plan, and to his credit, he actually the Chiefs' defense played relatively well for what they were given. They held the Chiefs under duress.
They gave up 40 points!
No. What I'm saying is with the offense not being able to do much of anything, 7 of those points came off of a pick six and another 7 came off of a deep ball when all they were trying to do was stop Saquon Barkley from breaking a 40-yard gain. For the hand they were given by what the offense was giving them for Kansas City, I thought the Chiefs defense played all right. But I mean, Eagles, elite, all-time good at all 3 levels, offense, defense, coordinators, special teams. Yeah, that was my first initial takeaway was this Eagles team is really good, and I don't think they got the respect they deserved until this game happened. My second big takeaway, though, is I think that this is going to be Patrick Mahomes' 2011 LeBron moment, where it's you look back at this game. This game was by far the worst game Patrick Mahomes has played at the NFL level. By far. Not even close. And the stats are going to be misleading. He finished the game, hold on, let me pull it up, with 257, 3 touchdowns, and 3 total turnovers. That's misleading. He was awful for the first 2.5 quarters. If you go on the NFL YouTube page or whatever, and you look at his best plays from the game, the compilation doesn't start until 2 minutes left in the third quarter when it was 34-0. Horrendous. This wasn't like the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, 55 or whatever it was, where I do genuinely think Patrick Mahomes played the best he possibly could have given his circumstances. Patrick Mahomes was a net negative for the Chiefs in this game. He was awful. His footwork wasn't great. He was missing throws. He obviously threw that pick six and then that interception inside his own 10-yard line to Zach Bond. He was terrible. He was one of the main reasons why the Chiefs got in the hole that they did. But obviously the biggest reason was the Eagles' defensive line. They put up an all-time performance in this game. Vic Fangio told them to get pressure with 4 and drop 7, and they were in the backfield of the Chiefs on almost every play, it felt like. And they didn't blitz one time in the first 2.5 quarters. Jalen Hurts was the best individual player, but the Super Bowl MVP, if possible, should have gone to the entire Eagles defensive line. That was the key to the game. That is why they won by as much as they did. Montez Sweat, Jalen Carter, everyone on that Eagles defensive line deserves a ton of credit. Montez Sweat is going to receive a bag this offseason. He played the best game of his career in the last game of his contract. He's going to be handsomely paid wherever he goes. And I mean, a lot of people on this Eagles team, A.J. Brown, Saquon, even though he hasn't been there for a long time. I don't know if Brandon Graham is still there, but he's already got a ring. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. A lot of people on this Eagles team are talented enough to deserve a ring, and now they will officially go down as NFL legends. And I think that is the storyline that we should be taking away from this, is how good the Eagles were in this game.
Yeah, I think really the main takeaway that I had was just how dominant the Eagles were. Nick pretty much hit on everything, honestly. So, but yeah, their defensive line was just phenomenal. I was shocked at this game, honestly. First of all, I thought it was going to be a good, close game. And second of all, we all had the Chiefs winning because the Chiefs, it's the Chiefs. But, yeah, the Eagles were a force in that game. From kickoff to the finish, it was just utter domination. So it was nice to see that. If you're not a Chiefs fan, obviously, but yeah, it was a brutal game for the Chiefs. That was a long and very, very brutal game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it didn't even look like the Chiefs belonged on the same field as the Eagles did.
No, and to be full on honest with you, I really don't think the Chiefs were that great throughout this season. Like 3/4 of their wins were 1 point or one score wins off bull crap. So to be honest with you, I don't know if they did belong on this field with the Eagles. This was
they won the AFC, fair and square. They won 15-2, seed, beat the Bills, beat the Texans.
If
come on,
games
dog.
would have been different this year, they would have been like 9-8.
Yeah, but
so the Eagles were.
You could use that for every team that's ever lost the Super Bowl ever.
Not true.
If a couple of their most important games went the other way, they wouldn't be here.
No. This was not a couple. This was most of the Chiefs' season. They were a good team, yes, but they were not as good of a team as the Eagles, and I had said that. But just because they particularly this year, they've been pulling bull crap out constantly. I thought they were going to do it again, but luckily they did not.
Yeah, they looked like this was their first time ever playing in a Super Bowl. Mahomes from the first two drives just looked out of sorts and rattled, and Travis Kelce played terrible. Chris Jones was a non-factor. Their best players just didn't show up. And I think that's a credit.
That's by the Eagles.
Yeah, I think that's a credit to the Eagles. I mean, they had a phenomenal game plan, like Nick said. They're just going to send four, and that offensive line for the Chiefs had been probably their biggest weakness all year. But Pat was able to kind of mask that to the best ability. But when you take away that run game and then force him to pass, there's just only so much that Pat could do with that much pressure in his face consistently.
Yeah.
Obviously, he kind of wasn't used to that. And that's why his footwork was bad, and he kind of threw some off-balance throws and throws that you would normally not see him make, and normally he wouldn't miss, but due to the pressure, he missed him. And then on the other side, on the offensive side for the Eagles, a lot of people were saying the Eagles win this game if Saquon dominates and continues to do what he's been doing. He didn't really have much. He wasn't much of a factor. The Eagles shut down the run. He was pretty quiet. Yeah, the Eagles shut down the run pretty well, but it was just Jalen Hurts really very rarely felt pressure. He was pressured a couple of times, but he stuck in it and made some tough throws. And this is the second time that Jalen Hurts has been the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. And so I think that's a credit to Jalen Hurts that he rises in these moments. We've seen that. He's won a national championship at Alabama. And everyone has just talked about how great of a leader he is. And you see that day in and day out with him. But he's one of those guys that when the lights are brightest, he rises, which is huge for a quarterback. And obviously he had another great game rushing and passing. He rushed for 72 yards, only missed 5 throws, which had had a 75 QBR with a 120 rating, passer rating. So, and it's pretty good for a quarterback. So I think it was just the Eagles dominated on both sides of the ball in the trenches, and you can go back to the oldest days of football. That's going to win you games, and that's exactly what happened. And so I think it was just utter dominance by the Eagles. I mean, yeah, the score was 40-22, but going into halftime, it was 24-0. Patrick Mahomes had 3 turnovers and only had 23 first half yards and one first down. Like they
It
didn't
was
show up in the
40 to
first
6
quarter.
midway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, like it was just utter dominance by the Eagles. The Chiefs just really didn't come to play, which was strange because I don't know if it was like the pressure of trying to three-peat or what, but they just didn't seem like the team that we're accustomed to seeing them being
No, they
at
didn't.
all.
Well, I'll just say 3 things, like 3 main things I kind of took out of this. First of all, I think that this was a classic performance of what real football is. The trenches win you games, offensive and defensive. The trenches win you games. And we saw that. The Eagles absolutely dominated the offensive and defensive line, and that's why they won. Second of all, I think Jalen Hurts gets a little too much hate. I really do. I think that people were down on him for most of the year this year. I still think he's firmly in the top 8 range. Top
Now,
5 to
yeah,
top 8.
obviously.
So he, like you said, Evan, this is the second time now that he's been the best player on the field in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he only came out on top in one of those, but nonetheless, he was still the best player on the field. And then, ouch. And then the last thing that I was going to say was, I think that a recipe to beat the Chiefs really might be just have a good defensive line.
Yeah,
and just
you have to dominate their offensive line.
Well, but the thing is, though, is that, when the Bengals were having success against the Chiefs in 2020 and 2022, they had a very good defensive line. So you just send 4, and then you drop everybody else off into coverage. In theory, there's no one. No one's going to be open when you're dropping. What is that?
7.
Guys, you're dropping 7 or 8 guys. What's the math there? 8.
7.
Yeah. Delete that, Evan. Theoretically, when you're dropping 7 guys into coverage and you're only having to rush 4 and you're still getting them uncomfortable and getting pressure on them, that's the perfect scenario. So I don't know. I think maybe the Eagles might have shown something that you've got to emphasize the defensive line, and if you get your defensive line down, you're going to be able to stop the run. You're going to be able to make them uncomfortable back there, while dropping everybody else off into coverage. It's just I just think that that's a really ideal way of playing defense, man. Now obviously you got to have the guys up front for that, but I think that that's why you need to prioritize defensive line.
And even against Baltimore in the AFC title game last season, the Chiefs' offense didn't really do much, like a whole lot. Everyone after that game was talking about the Ravens lost this game more than the Chiefs won it, with Zay Flowers turnovers, Lamar Jackson turnovers, just not converting in the red zone. Fraud choking.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs, especially in the second half of that game, didn't really move the ball at all because the Ravens' defensive line was stopping the run and getting back there. So maybe the blueprint was always there. We just haven't seen it fully exploited until this game.
Well, and because, if all you have to do is send 4 people, that's easy on defense. You send 4 people when it gets there. That's
you send 4? Okay, what coverage do you want to play behind it?
Yeah,
take your pick.
There's a lot of flexibility on the secondary front, and if that's all it takes to make him uncomfortable and get him out of rhythm, maybe it's not. Like you said, maybe the blueprint really has been there, and teams just haven't really been able to take advantage of it. I don't know, but if you do go back and look at the times that the Chiefs have faced teams that have good defensive line, they always struggle against the Bengals. They struggled offensively against the Ravens, and obviously they just got absolutely wrecked against the Eagles. So I don't know. You look at teams that have good defensive lines, that might be a team that might be something that teams need to kind of focus on a little bit more now is the defensive line.
Well, I think the blueprint was kind of put in place when they lost that first Super Bowl to Tampa Bay. That kind of felt kind of like the
Yeah.
same
Well,
thing where
that's
Mahomes
what I'm
was
saying. I mean, you even
running for his life,
yeah.
and I
Well,
mean the Bucks had a lot of great defenders on that team. You had
mhm.
Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, Levante David, Devin White, like guys like that were just making Patrick Mahomes' life as hard as possible, and
Yeah.
he
Well, and I
couldn't do
mean,
anything. I mean, they didn't score a touchdown that game. So
no, and even I mean, Rob Gronkowski even said yesterday, or not yesterday, Sunday in the pregame, like he was talking. He was like, yeah, when we played Kansas City and when we played Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, he was saying like that was our number one thing. We just had to make him uncomfortable. Like just don't let him get his don't let him get his feet set. Don't let him be comfortable and make comfortable throws. Like just get him out of his rhythm. And like you said, that was really the first kind of time that was highlighted. Was I mean they just got dominated, and then I think the Bengals kind of took advantage of that the next year. And the Ravens tried their best, but offensively wasn't there. And now the Eagles just, I mean, like Nick said, this is one of the best. I mean, this is one of the most dominant teams I think that has been assembled in a very long time. So, I mean, it really was pretty easy for them. Just send 4 guys, drop everybody else back, and they can't do anything. That's it. You know?
yeah, I mean the Eagles have had one of the best offensive lines for a while now. They
Yeah.
have 2 great receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. You add Saquon Barkley into the mix, who, like Nick said last podcast, solidified himself as having the best running back season of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, on that defense, Cooper DeJean had a big pick six. Like Nick said, Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, like they were just making life as hard as possible
Yeah,
for him.
shut up.
Um, and I think it's just a testament to how Howie Roseman builds his teams. I
He
mean,
might be the best GM
you
in
look
the
at
NFL.
it,
He is
Really
yeah,
not
might be.
Mike.
but you look at it. They've been in 3 Super Bowls in 6 years, and they've won 2 of them. And they've gone through 2 head coaches. They've gone through multiple coordinators. They're on their like 3rd quarterback. So it's not like they've had this consistency throughout. But Howie Roseman's ability to be aggressive in trades, free agency signings, the draft, like he makes people pay for their mistakes. Drafting guys like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, when people are like, oh, they have these character issues, but he's like, no, these guys are good players.
Mhm.
Drafting Nolan Smith when professional scouts are like, well, he might be too like small, drafting Cooper DeJean when people are like, he's not athletic. I don't know if he's a true corner. Like he has a knack for talent, and he's
He just
aggressive
drafts
in
guys that are
getting
good
them.
at football. Like,
Yeah.
turn on the
But
film and watch it. Like, they
even
still
in
watch.
like free agency too, like going out and getting Saquon Barkley, trading for AJ Brown, like
Yeah. He's
getting guys
aggressive.
like
Signing Zach Bond. That's
signing
crazy. 'Cause
was Zach
last year
Barnes on
he
like
was
a minimum contract.
Yeah, he was a backup special teamer for the Saints earlier in his career. Now he was arguably the best linebacker in football.
He was a first team All Pro.
Yeah, like you can't make this up.
Jeez. Yeah, it would be really nice if our team had him.
Yeah, I think everybody would want him. But I mean, yeah, I think he's shown the blueprint on how to win. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult to have a roster as stacked as the Eagles,
Mhm.
but I think he's kind of put into place. Like you said, we've just draft good football players, build in the trenches, and then work your way from there.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's really
the
all.
Eagles really have. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, but I don't think he's in that elite status of guys like
He's
Burrow,
not. He
Allen,
just has an elite team around him.
Lamar. But they've been able to win with him, Nick Foles. Like they've been able to. You would think in most times to win a Super Bowl, you have to have that upper echelon, elite quarterback, and they've been able to do it with Jalen Hurts, who's phenomenal, who's great. But And that tier below those guys, and that's just a
Yeah.
testament to how Howie Roseman's built this team. And I think we have to give a lot of credit to Nick Sirianni too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's been coaching for 4 years, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls and has like a 80% win percentage or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So I think we have to start talking about him as one of the better coaches in the NFL. And
People
earlier
wanted
this
him
season, a lot of
fired.
people were talking
Eagles
about
fans were calling for
talking
his
about him
job
being
last year.
fired.
It's
But
like,
I mean, you
what
look at
are
all
you
of the
talking
stuff,
about?
and you're like, I mean, this guy has been able
He
to.
wins, man.
Yeah, he wins with what he's given, and even with that adversity of everyone, calling for his head in the way they finished that last season, he just got him and Howie got back to the drawing board, addressed all their needs, and won a Super Bowl.
Yep. Yeah. This was a really good team, and I mean, I think you got to talk about. I mean, these guys are going to be firmly in a position to, make a run again next year.
Yeah, I fully expect the Eagles to be
Yeah,
in a similar situation
like 85%
next
of
year.
their defense is rookies on
Yeah.
the rookie contracts.
Yeah. So I mean, these guys are going to be in the conversation for probably the next couple of years. So I mean, I don't know if these guys are going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of conversation, after this game, where do you guys think that Jalen Hurts ranks amongst quarterbacks? A lot of people have kind of been having the conversation that he's in that top 5 now.
He
Where
would
do you
be
guys think in
fifth
there?
if he is top 5. He's
I
not.
think I would.
He's
I
not
was-
as good of a player as Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, or Lamar. He's
Well,
he's not.
I was.
But- My fault.
No, you're good. I was kind of considering this, and I'm just like, I think he's either number 5 or he's like right on the fringe there, Because my thing is, he's not better than Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson. He's not better than those 4. And when I was thinking, I was like, I don't even like. Is he better than Justin Herbert? Is he
I
better?
would say so.
I don't know, man.
Both of them have had plenty of playoff opportunities at this point, and one player has been the best player on his team in multiple Super Bowls, and the other player has had 2 horrific playoff outings now.
I know, but the only thing I say is because Jalen Hurts the argument against Jalen Hurts here is that he has literal super teams around him, and Justin Herbert really doesn't have much to work with. I think Justin Herbert, on an individual standpoint, is the more talented quarterback. But
that doesn't mean
once
he's
again,
better,
though, it doesn't mean he's better. So I don't know. I think he's 5. He's in the 5 to 7 range for me. I'd probably put him at 5 because I just don't. Because I was thinking, I just don't know about putting him over guys like Herbert and Stroud. Herbert,
he's better than C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud had a
C.J. Stroud's good.
He had a slump, but dude, he's a really freaking good quarterback.
Yeah, his sophomore slump was winning the division and winning a playoff game, so I think he's going to be fine.
That's why I don't know if he's better than Stroud. I don't know. I mean, last year we were immediately saying C.J. Stroud was 5.
I think the question we should be asking more than where Jalen Hurts ranks is how many quarterbacks in the NFL could have similar success if they were put on the Eagles.
Okay, yeah. So if I'm thinking by that means, then Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, and Justin Herbert, I all believe could have similar success with that roster.
I'd probably throw Jaden Daniels there too at this point, even though it's only been 1 year. And Matthew Stafford.
It's a little early for him, but you could probably.
He went to the NFC title game this year.
Here's the thing, though, is that when we start throwing guys like
Matt
Stafford, he's a rookie. When we start throwing
title game.
When you start putting guys like Matt Stafford in this discussion, Matt Stafford's not better than Jalen Hurts. Would he have the same success? Probably, but he's not a better quarterback, I don't think. I think you put just about any quarterback that is decent on that team, and they have a lot of success because this team was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what makes the conversation hard.
If you put Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, if you put those, the top 4, if you put those guys in there, they probably don't lose a game. But outside of those 4 guys, I mean, I think really most quarterbacks in the league would have success with that roster.
But would they win a Super Bowl? That's the thing.
I think there's probably 7 or 8 guys that would, yeah. The top 4 easily.
I don't know if Justin Herbert would win a Super Bowl. He's had multiple playoff outings now, and this is crazy because I was the biggest Herbert defender 2 years ago. But he's had multiple playoff outings now where he just has not shown up.
But the thing is, though, if you give a quarterback of his talent level a roster like that and they don't win the Super Bowl, like, I mean, you know, like they are not very good then. And I'm not ready to say Justin Herbert's not very good.
Well, no, he's still good, but I don't know. I can't put him above Jalen Hurts right now. I just can't. I can't do it.
Probably not, I guess. Then I guess he's 5 for me.
I'd put him at 5 right now.
He's not better than those 4.
Too. Yeah, he's not better than the 4 guys in the
AFC. There's like the big 4, and then outside of that, it's a little bit shuffly.
Yeah,
I would say.
But it's kind of a hard case because obviously you don't want to discredit him for the team around him because that's the goal of football is to build the best team around your quarterback.
Oh, I agree for sure. I would love Joe Burrow had that team.
Yeah, but he's not like Josh Allen and like Joe Burrow and these guys who are like, you know, the main reasons why their team wins. Mm-hmm. But I think I would put him at 5, but I don't think this game really changed how I view Jalen Hurts. Like when you're a quarterback with this level of team, like you were supposed to play how he played.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he played great. So I don't think this game really like, I don't view him in a different light. I think this is what you're supposed to do when you have good coaching and good players around you. You're supposed to win, put up good numbers. But I think it is a credit to Jalen Hurts that he is able to rise in those big moments. Like I think Justin Herbert is more talented than him. Yeah. But Jalen Hurts is able to rise in these playoff moments when we've seen Justin Herbert kind of struggle. So I think that's a big thing for him is we talk about guys that have the clutch gene and like Nick said, can win you a Super Bowl, and obviously Hurts did it. But I think I think that puts him up there as well, just his ability to elevate his play as the lights get brighter.
His ability is to lead a team as a quarterback is very, very rare.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I would say that my view of him also really didn't change that much because, I mean, it might have changed a little bit, but not really that much because I had really kind of thought throughout most of the season that people were a little bit too down on him. Because I had still thought that he was a good quarterback from that last Super Bowl run, honestly. So I knew that he was a good quarterback, but just kind of seeing how he elevates his game in moments like this, it kind of boosted my opinion of him even a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely got that clutch gene for sure. He's a really fun player to watch, and I mean he's. You know, like I don't really think that he is a quarterback that is quite as capable of like single-handedly willing his team to wins, like you said, Mahomes and Burrow and Allen. But he is a very good quarterback who always, like, as the lights get brighter, he shows up to play. You know, whether or not he has a loaded team around him is beside the point. He shows up to play because, like,
that's all you can do. As a quarterback.
Even like we had said earlier, I mean, even though he had loaded teams around him, he was still the best player in both of those Super Bowls. I mean, in Super Bowl 57, like, I don't really know if that's going to be remembered as much because they lost, but that was one of the best single-handed Super Bowl performances I've ever seen.
Outside of the one fluke fumble that he had, he did not have a bad play all game.
He like on an individual level, he played better in that game than he did in this Super Bowl. He was like phenomenal in that Super Bowl. Like that was an unreal performance. And then in this game, he played really well too. So, yeah, I mean, having guys like that, I mean, that's something that you, that's something that you don't want to give away for anything. Having a guy that can kind of rise in the moments, you know, whether or not he's played well throughout the regular season, it doesn't matter. He shows up to play and takes it to a whole new level in the playoffs. So.
Well, I don't think Hurts is ever going to have these like gaudy passing stats like
No.
5,000 yards, 40 plus touchdowns.
Well,
Like that's just not
that's
how
not
he
who he
is.
is, and that's not who the Eagles
Yeah,
are.
the
They
Eagles are a
don't do
run
that.
first team. He's a
Yeah.
run first player. So I think when some people look at him, and I think a reason he got a lot of criticism is, well, he's really not like if you just look straight off box score, he's not
Mhm.
putting up these gaudy numbers that elite quarterbacks like Burrow, Allen, Lamar, these guys are all putting up. So that must mean he's just not good. But there's other ways to affect the game, and if you actually watched him and you watch this game, he affected the game a lot with his legs and
Oh yeah.
his ability to lead. And but I just don't think he's never going to be this guy that is going to throw the ball across the yard, even with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. It's just not how the Eagles operate,
It's not
and
their
really just not his
offense.
style. So I think a lot
Yeah.
of people, when they just look at his stats, they're like, oh well. I mean, if you look at his stats this year, he threw for 18 touchdowns and 5 picks on like 2,900 yards. So
Mhm.
like they're like, oh, that's not a great season. Like, what are you talking about? But there's, I mean, like it goes back to what I said earlier. He did what you have to do on a good team, and that's
Mhm.
step up in the biggest moments and just play clean,
And like
good football.
service
That's
the
what he did.
team, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I I don't really care if people say like, oh, he doesn't have the unreal stat sheet or whatever. Like I don't really care. He's a winner, you know. Like I would take 20 touchdowns and you know 3 or 4,000 passing yards with a Super Bowl any day of the week than 50 passing touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and an MVP. Like
Yeah.
so the stat sheet's not eye popping, but I think he's a good leader, and he shows up when the moments are brightest. And I think the biggest thing is he serves the team. Like he doesn't have to be a guy that carries the team. He's got Saquon Barkley. He's got a great offensive line. He's got great receivers. His defense is phenomenal. Like all he has to do is just service the rest of this team. Just don't be freaking horrible, and then step up.
Don't crash the Lambo.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't crash the Lambo and then step up when you're needed to, and he does that every time.
That's what we say about all the Ohio State quarterbacks.
Yeah. Now whether or not they step up when they need to, that's this year.
Will Howard did.
Will Howard did.
Will Howard did.
Kyle McCord did not.
All right, I want to talk about the quarterback on the other side, Mahomes. A lot of people were kind of talking about him, and if he three-peats, we got to have him in this GOAT conversation because he would have 4 Super Bowls before 30, blah, blah, blah. But obviously that didn't happen. So on the flip side of this, do you guys think that this game hurt Mahomes' legacy, or do you think it's just one where, you can't win them all? I want
to be very
elite.
clear with this. Patrick Mahomes did not need to win this game to further his legacy. Okay? However, I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to do something that, Brady never did again.
No.
I don't think they're going to. Who knows? He's not even 30 yet. He's got probably another 10 years minimum in the league, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know if he's going to be in a chance to three-peat again.
Listen.
The fact that the Chiefs even made it back to the Super Bowl is NFL history in itself. A team going for a three-peat never even made it back to the Super Bowl. But I think that he did not. If your takeaway of this game is Mahomes cannot have a resume that rivals Brady because of this performance, that's just not correct. He's got another 10 years to further his legacy and win probably at least 2 or 3 more Super Bowls with the way that his career is going. But it will be interesting to see whether or not the Chiefs enter a bit of a transition period. Because it's clear that Kelsey is not the player that he was. And, Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. Who knows what their coordinators do. Their D-Hop's gone, but, they've got Xavier Worthy. So it'll see if a couple more of these AFC teams really get over the hump. But I don't think Mahomes needed this win. I think people that are viewing him as anything less than what he was before this game are just finding reasons to hate on him. He did not play good in this game. That's why I think it'll go down as like a 2011 LeBron moment where we look back and it's like, this was horrendous. Like, this is a really, really bad look in the biggest moment because he was a net negative, like I said earlier, for the Chiefs. But I don't think it's really going to alter too much for him in the long run.
So yeah, it is like really freaking hard to go to a Super Bowl. So going to 3 straight is extremely impressive that they did that. Winning the first 2 and going back to a third is really, really impressive. But I would agree with what Nick said. I would be shocked if they have an opportunity to win 3 straight again in his career. And I know that's crazy to say because he's probably got another 10 to 12 years left. But it is really, really hard to go to a Super Bowl.
Then going back after winning 2 was unprecedented.
Yeah, so it is. I mean, winning a Super Bowl is the hardest championship, I think, to win of all sports. I think the Super Bowl is the hardest championship to win. There are so many external factors that go into it. Injuries, coaches, other teams factor into this. So it is really, really hard to accomplish this feat. So I would be shocked if they are in a position to accomplish this feat again in his career. With that being said, though, I also don't really think it's going to hurt him too much because his resume is already extremely impressive. He wasn't going to be my GOAT regardless. I think the GOAT conversations are a little bit ridiculous at this point, honestly. And there are several football players and analysts and stuff out there that also agree with that. He's too young. I mean, it's too early in his career to put him in the GOAT conversation already. So I think that whole discussion is pretty ridiculous at this point in his career. But his resume is extremely impressive. I would put him in the top 5, but he's not rivaling Brady right now. He's got 10 to 12 more years to prove that he can rival Brady. So there's a lot of time left on that. It's a little premature.
That's what made Brady so good is for how long he was in contention to win Super Bowls.
Yeah, so I think there's 10 to 12 more years until we can say he's rivaling Brady. And, to be full on honest with you, in my opinion, Mahomes is going to have to either win 7 or 8 for me to say he's better than Brady. Because Brady beat him head-to-head twice in the playoffs, one of them being in the Super Bowl, dismantled him in the Super Bowl.
He didn't dismantle him; their defense did, but that's another story for another day.
The Buccaneers dismantled them in the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady led that team.
But Tom Brady doesn't play defense.
Well, Tom Brady threw for like 3 or 4 touchdowns in that game. So
off of 3 whole air yards in the second half.
All right, Nick's a Brady hater, just so that's out there.
I'm just saying.
But, a 43-year-old man walked in and led his team to a dismantling victory over a prime 24-year-old quarterback.
Against a backup offensive line, but
well, somehow that backup offensive line went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, obviously they weren't that bad. But, so that GOAT debate's probably just never going to happen for me unless he wins 7 or 8. And even then, it's gonna be a stretch because Brady beat him head-to-head twice. So basically, I think the GOAT discussions are pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. But he's still a great quarterback, and I don't think this really hurts his legacy too much. He's already have a very impressive resume, and it sucks. Obviously, it sucks anytime you lose that game. I mean, he's 3-2 in Super Bowls now. That's extremely
Brady
impressive.
was also 3-2 in his first 5. So
yes, he was. So it's very impressive that he did that. But yeah, I don't think it really hurts him too much. It's really more so just like a,
sucks that it really blows for the GOAT convo that you didn't have this.
It's like Evan said, you can't win them all. So I think that this was the game. I think that this was one of those games where it's just like, yeah, I mean, you can't win all the time. You win some, you lose some. He sucked. He did not play well at all. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not hurting his legacy or his career, and he's got a long time left. So I guarantee you they're going to win more. But
yeah, the Chiefs will be back in this spot at some point.
they'll win more. I would be shocked if they ever have the opportunity to three-peat again, but they'll win more. But as far as the GOAT debate goes, that debate was never going to be had at all for me personally, and I know that a lot of people agree with that. So
Yeah, I don't think that this game really hurts his legacy. Obviously, it's not a good look to just have your worst game ever in the Super Bowl, but I mean, he still won 3,
yeah,
and even with losing, still probably had one of the most impressive 5-year stretches in NFL history. Going to 5 straight AFC championships, winning 3 Super Bowls. Um, but yeah, in terms of the GOAT debate, this would have really helped his case. I mean, doing something that Brady's never done, and guys like Kobe, Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan, some of the best athletes to ever walk the earth have done. To put him in that conversation would have definitely, obviously, helped him a lot. Um, but he's not even 30 yet, so he still has a lot of time. But I think for now in the foreseeable future, I think that those discussions of comparing him to Brady will kind of go away. Um,
as they should
but
for the time
but
being.
yeah, I mean, it's tough, and especially in football, like we said last episode. It's tough to make it to 3 straight. It's tough. Even tougher to win all of them. Um, so I just think I don't think he's. I saw some idiot was like, now Joe Montana is better than him, and I was like, okay, like,
Yeah, okay, buddy.
he already has, I'm pretty sure, as many rings as or did Montana have
No,
4?
he doesn't. Montana has
Montana
4.
had 4, but
Yeah, well, Mahomes will get 4. I would not be surprised, but like I still think once he ends his career, he'll still be second best quarterback ever. Um, but it's just one of those where it's like, you had a chance to make history and you fell short. I mean, that's just what it is. And the Eagles, I mean, I think this is the second time that they've ended like a dynasty. Um,
they've stopped a three-peat from happening twice now.
Twice.
yeah, so, um, but yeah, I don't think anybody really views Patrick Mahomes as a lesser quarterback. I think they're just
He's
like,
a bum now. He's
Yeah.
terrible.
I just think
I
that
do think
the
that-
GOAT conversation will probably die
Be
down
put on pause for the foreseeable future.
because
It should be put on
that
pause
was
for the
his.
foreseeable
If
future.
he would have won this game, that would have been his big chip against Brady. It was, he three-peated. Brady never did that. But now, like Nick said, he's 3-2 the Super Bowl, same as Brady was the first 5 years. Like, I think that'll probably go on hold until inevitably he probably wins another one, and then start back up again. But yeah, I don't view Patrick Mahomes as in any different light. He's still elite, best in the world. But just this one didn't roll his way. So
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to be interesting to see where the Chiefs go from here, though, because I think we might be starting to turn a page in that dynasty. I mean, I don't know. Like you guys said, their stars are aging pretty quickly and not really performing quite at the same level. So
They keep finding ways to find new ones. And Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Xavier Worthy, I don't think they're going anywhere. They're gonna keep being in this spot.
well, it will be.
I
This
don't
will be
believe
an
they're going to be in
interesting
the Super Bowl every
offseason
year.
for them.
But,
Well, no, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl every year, but they're going to be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the AFC for the next 10, 15 years.
This will be an interesting free agency for them because they don't have a whole lot of cap space right now, and they have some pretty big free agents and like Trey Smith, their guard, 25 years old. He's going to be wanting to get paid a lot, so he's going to take up a lot of cap. Obviously, Nick Bolton's a free agent. He's gonna want a big deal because he's been really good. So they do have some guys who were big, Justin Reed, Hollywood Brown, guys who were big time contributors that, I mean, with the cap, I know you can finagle it and stuff, but we'll see if they're going to be able to, pay these guys because they might just get outbid for Trey Smith. I mean, 25 years old as guard and who's really good. Like, a team could swoop in that has a lot of money, like the Patriots, for example, could give him more money than the Chiefs are able to, and then they're kind of in the same situation where they were when they lost Trent Brown, where, they kind of just lose big pieces because they get outbid.
Yeah.
We'll see what the Chiefs do from
No one
here.
had a comment there.
I
Yeah.
didn't.
So we'll see what the Chiefs do from here. But yeah, congrats to the Eagles for winning Super Bowl 59. Sad to see that the NFL season is over. It was a fun season.
It is sad. It went by really fast, man.
I
It
thought it
did.
was enjoyable, even though our
was
teams kind
enjoyable.
of sucked. I thought it was way more enjoyable than last
Yeah,
season.
Yeah,
I
it
got
was-
put
it
through
was
the ringer
definitely
a
a
few
fun
times.
season. Yeah, I had a good time this season. I'm excited for next season to roll around. Hopefully,
Yeah, now we
hopefully
get
have a
into the
different
off
outcome,
season.
but probably not. So
Yeah. Now we get into the off season. Free agency draft, always a good time. So there'll still be football around. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you enjoy. See you guys in the next one. Peace.